The Tates have now officially landed in the United States, and people are cheering, disgusted, and overall losing their minds. Or with us learning the news today that Andrew and Tristan Tate took a private plane out of Romania and landed in Florida this morning after Romania lifted the travel restrictions they'd been under. With then Andrew briefly answering questions from the press after landing, condemning the media for what he called spinning narratives against him, and adding,
"We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet. We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever."
Now, as far as specifics, you may be wondering how we got here. You had Romania's anti-organized crime agency, DICOT, releasing a statement announcing that two unnamed defendants, who later were confirmed to be the Tates, are now allowed to leave the country, but they have to remain under judicial supervision, meaning that they'll still have to appear before authorities when summoned, and failure to comply could lead to stricter measures being put back in place. So notably, even though the restrictions were lifted, the cases against them are still ongoing, because they were indicted last year in Romania on trafficking charges, and while the court ruled that the case could not go to trial, it is still open, and there's another ongoing investigation into them in the country. Additionally, an appeals court previously granted a request to extradite the brothers to the UK, but only after the cases in Romania had wrapped up. All of this as they've denied any wrongdoing, and now, given that they're in the United States, there are questions if they'll ever actually go back to Romania. And all of this is a really huge update, because if you've been following this case, you know that the Tates have been trying to get out of the country for quite some time to no avail, which has some people wondering how they finally got the green light. And well, on that front, a key thing is that earlier this month, there were reports saying that the Trump administration was actually going to urge Romania to lift travel restrictions on them. And that is, the Tates have notably become prominent right-wing figures, frequently tweeting in support of Trump and suggesting he could help them. So we've seen tons of reports questioning if the Trump administration was part of any official efforts to get them on US ground. Though there, according to the New York Times, Romanian officials said that the US had not put pressure on them, and a lawyer for the brothers said he could not give any comment on whether or not stateside officials used their power in that decision. But he then also told the outlet, "Do the math, these guys are on the plane." And this is his statements to other outlets were a little bit more discreet, though, simply not providing details on the White House's involvement, NBC News, but saying, "Our position is that Andrew and Tristan have long been targets of lawfare," saying they have maintained their innocence, arguing the accusations against them are defamatory and false. Even though right now there are more questions than official answers, many believe that there was political influence from the US here. With us seeing, for example, Matthew Girardier, a lawyer representing women in the UK who have accused Andrew Tate of sexual assault, writing on Twitter, "The news that pressure by the Trump administration has led to Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan being allowed to leave Romania by its authorities is equal parts disgusting and dismaying," and saying that the US government would choose to lobby for his release is absurd, but sadly, given its actions over the past month, perhaps unsurprising. With potentially the biggest statement being any suggestion that the Tates will now face justice in Romania is fanciful. In there, claiming that there is evidence to support the allegations against Andrew and calling for the authorities in the UK to secure his extradition. And notably, he is not the only one condemning the brothers' presence in America. In addition to us seeing just tons of people on the left and certain right-wing figures like Ben Shapiro speaking out against the Tates coming to America, we saw Florida Governor Ron DeSantis talking to reporters this morning and saying,
"The reality is no, Florida is not a place where you're welcome with that type of conduct in the air." And I don't know how it came to this. We were not involved. We were not notified. I found out through the media.
Though obviously, while all of this is playing out, Tate supporters have been celebrating the news. And so some on that side have slammed DeSantis for his remarks, but then as far as what Trump thinks, well, during a meeting with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, he was asked if the US pressured for the Tates' release, and Trump simply said,
"I just know nothing about it. We'll check it out. We'll let you know."
I do. Look, obviously this involves, there's an English element here.
And then, because the Tates also have legal issues in the UK, Starmer added,
"Human trafficking is obviously, to my mind, a security risk, and so we'll catch up with the story in due course."
You're aware? Are you aware?
I
I didn't know anything about it. Yeah.
But for now, we're gonna have to wait to see where all this goes, how it impacts the legal proceedings against the brothers, and if we learn anything else about what prompted restrictions to be released. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this clip from the full Philip DeFranco show. And also, a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring our Clips channel. Turn your passion into profit over at squarespace.com/Phil, or use the QR code. Because whether you're launching a business or a lucrative side hustle, your website is your digital business card. It's the only space where you control the story, no algorithms or distractions. And with Squarespace, it's so easy because they got a ton of stunning professional templates with drag and drop editing that makes site design incredibly simple, no coding required. So get started for free at squarespace.com/Phil, or scan the QR code on screen and use code Phil for 10% off when ready to launch. Squarespace.com/Phil.